looking everywhere, that's how the story goes. Grab your key.
Welcome, Zone Explorers. Step out of the light and into the decadent, dangerous shadows of 17th century Venice with Whispers in the Venetian Crypt. This isn't your usual slasher. It's a historical zombie thriller soaked in royal luxury, forbidden love, and deadly secrets. The story follows Valentina, a breathtaking, full-figured noblewoman, and Demetrius, a dashing scholar whose passion defies all rules of nobility. Their dangerous curiosity leads them deep beneath a grand palazzo, where they uncover a hidden Byzantine crypt lost for centuries. One stolen kiss inside those tombs doesn't just seal their love, it awakens a cursed undead emperor bound in vengeance. As the undead rise, a darker truth unravels. One of them is the reincarnated traitor who cursed him long ago. Love, betrayal, and horror intertwine in a breathtaking race against fate. Will passion conquer the curse, or ignite it once more? Experience every lavish, terrifying chapter now. Don't let the whispers fade. Like, subscribe, and join the Zombie Story Zone for more Gothic romance, royal seduction, and undead chills. Start Chapter 1 now, if you dare. Chapter 1. The Mask of Shadows. The Grand Sala of Castello Erizo pulsed with the seductive rhythm of a Venetian mask. Golden chandeliers glimmered above swirling dancers, their jeweled masks hiding both virtue and vice. The air was thick with amber perfume, jasmine smoke, and the hum of whispered scandal. Amid the glittering chaos stood Valentina, her voluptuous form draped in emerald silk that shimmered like moonlight on the canals. Her beauty drew eyes, but her gaze searched only for one, Demetrius. Tall, broad-shouldered, and cloaked in black velvet, Demetrius's usual scholarly restraint was undone by the mystery of his mask. When their eyes met, the room seemed to blur. Their love, forbidden by blood and family feuds, burned brighter than the torches that lined the marble walls. In the shadows, Demetrius leaned close, his voice low and trembling with both passion and fear. He had uncovered something. An ancient, iron-bound door hidden behind a vast tapestry of the Siege of Constantinople. He believed it led to the lost crypt of Emperor Andronicus, the Byzantine ruler cursed by betrayal. Valentina's heart raced. The danger, the secrecy, the thrill, it all felt irresistible. Their hands brushed, sealing a silent pact to uncover what lay beneath the palazzo's gilded floors. As masked revelers danced under chandeliers, two lovers unknowingly awakened a destiny steeped in blood and darkness. Would their discovery reveal a treasure of history, or unleash a horror buried for centuries beneath Venetian splendor? Chapter 2. The Historian's Obsession. For Demetrius, history was not a quiet pursuit. It was a burning obsession, as consuming as his love for Valentina. By candlelight, he had spent endless nights poring over crumbling Byzantine manuscripts, hunting for whispers of a lost emperor, Andronicus, the disgraced ruler betrayed by his own court and condemned to an eternal, cursed slumber. Legend claimed his tomb lay buried within the foundations of Castello Erizo, the grand Venetian retreat of Valentina's family. To Demetrius, the emperor's tragedy was more than a myth. It was a reflection of their forbidden passion, crushed beneath the weight of lineage and law. As he spoke, his eyes burned with conviction. The curse, he explained, could only be broken by the traitor's kiss, a poetic detail that now seemed dangerously symbolic of their love. Valentina listened, her gloved fingers gliding across the hand-drawn map Demetrius had laid before her. His brilliance, his daring, the dangerous gleam in his dark eyes, all made the risk intoxicating. The iron-bound door he described called to her like fate itself. "Midnight," she whispered, her heart pounding. "We'll find it together." As the clock neared the 12th chime, the palazzo slept under silken shadows. Yet beyond its marble halls moved two souls, bound by desire and destiny, ready to defy Countess Elena's iron will and awaken what history had meant to keep buried forever. Chapter 3. The Countess's Warning. The Venetian night hung heavy with perfume and sea mist as Countess Elena appeared on the moonlit garden path. Regal, voluptuous, and draped in sapphire brocade that shimmered like deep water. Her sudden presence silenced Valentina and Demetrius mid-whisper. There was no fury in her gaze, only a chilling calm, the kind born from knowledge too dangerous to name. "My dear children," she murmured, her tone low and hypnotic, "the past is a serpent best left coiled. This house remembers what it should forget." Her words flowed like silk, wrapping around them in equal parts affection and threat. She spoke of dark Arezzo legacies, of ancient pacts forged in blood and ambition. Her warning was clear: some doors were never meant to be opened. After her departure, the night grew colder. Demetrius, heart-pounding, made his way toward his chambers, only to be stopped by Lord Alvis, the calculating noble whose charm was as polished as his power. Beneath polite smiles and idle talk of Byzantine relics, Alvis's questions cut deep, probing Demetrius's research with predatory curiosity. "You tread on old ground, my friend," Alvisi said, his voice dripping with veiled menace. "Be sure it does not swallow you." Caught between Elena's cryptic warning and Alvisi's shadowed interest, Demetrius felt the weight of unseen forces closing in. Was Lord Alvis truly a scholar, or a man guarding a sinister secret buried beneath Castello Arezzo? Chapter 4, The Iron Seal. The clock tower struck midnight, its echo swallowed by the stillness of Castello Arezzo. Beneath the sleeping villa, Valentina and Demetrius met in the flickering light of a single lantern, their breaths quick and shallow. Cloaked in secrecy, they crept through the servants' passage until they reached the massive tapestry depicting the siege of Constantinople. With trembling hands, they drew it aside. Behind the woven soldiers and saints loomed the iron-bound door, blackened by centuries and cold as a tombstone. Faint beneath the grime, the Byzantine double-headed eagle glared through rust. A line of Greek text, perfectly legible, sent a chill down Valentina's spine. "Here sleeps the betrayed, until the oath is broken by a traitor's kiss." Demetrius withdrew an ancient brass key, its grotesque teeth twisted in unnatural shapes. "It was in a forgotten ledger," he whispered, his voice shaking with excitement rather than fear. The key turned, slowly, painfully, and the lock released with a shriek that rattled the very stones. A rush of icy air, reeking of sulfur and decay, poured from the widening crack. Candles flickered violently. Valentina's emerald cloak fluttered as she stepped closer, her eyes wide, unblinking. Their gazes met, equal parts terror and desire. The seal was broken. The darkness ahead seemed to breathe, ancient and alive. What waited in the shadows below? A treasure of the dead, or the awakening of the damned? Chapter 5, Descent into the Past. The lantern flame quivered against the cold breath of the crypt as Valentina and Demetrius began their descent into darkness. Each step echoed against ancient stone, the air growing thick and heavy, laden with centuries of silence. The narrow staircase twisted downward, its mosaic-lined walls depicting long-forgotten glory. Gold-crowned emperors, radiant Byzantine courts, and the fiery fall of Constantinople. It was as if they were walking backward through time, slipping deeper into the veins of a fallen empire. At last, they reached the base, a vast, circular chamber carved from marble and shadow. In the center stood a monumental dais, its surface dominated by a cracked sarcophagus, half open as though disturbed by unseen hands. A fetid wind drifted from within, the stench of rot and incense, of sacred metal and death. Valentina's grip tightened around Demetrius's hand. Together, they approached the tomb. Inside lay the skeletal remains of a man once powerful, his armor dulled but still regal, his face veiled beneath a black, time-eaten shroud. Even in death, he exuded authority, a presence that filled the room with ancient sorrow and dread. The lantern flickered wildly, shadows dancing like restless spirits across the crypt walls. History itself seemed to hold its breath. In that suffocating stillness, their love, defiant, reckless, burning, was the only living thing. Would they seal their devotion with a kiss and awaken what the centuries had cursed to sleep? Chapter 6, The Oath Broken. The sight before them was almost too immense to bear. Demetrius, trembling with awe, stared at the entombed emperor, the very legend he had chased across years of study and sleepless obsession. The reality of it, the bones, the armor, the air thick with decay, blurred the line between history and nightmare. Beside him, Valentina felt the pulse of something far greater than fear. It was love and defiance, an intoxicating fusion that had already made them outlaws to their bloodlines. Now it seemed they had defied time itself. She turned toward Demetrius, her emerald eyes glittering beneath her mask. "We've come too far to turn back," she whispered. Their lips met, a desperate, fevered kiss, filled with passion, guilt, and triumph. It was the traitor's kiss of legend, unknowingly sealing their fate. The air thickened. The lantern flame shrank to a trembling bead. From within the sarcophagus came a faint, sickly green glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. The walls themselves seemed to breathe. A low sound followed, a dry, ragged gasp, the sound of lungs remembering life. The shroud over the Emperor's face began to stir, folding and twisting as something beneath it moved. The centuries-dead body was waking. Valentina's breath caught. Demetrius stepped back, horror dawning in his eyes. The spell was broken. The Emperor Andronicus lived again, and his first breath carried the promise of vengeance. But upon whom would his wrath fall? Chapter 7. The Emperor Rises. The rasping breath deepened, turning into a wet, guttural growl that seemed to shake the crypt itself. Then, with a violent jolt of decayed muscle and rusted armor, the Emperor moved. Andronicus sat upright in his sarcophagus, his every motion grotesque like a puppet pulled by unseen strings. The air turned foul, thick with the stench of rot and sulfur. Before them stood not a relic of history, but a blasphemy of life. His skin hung in parchment folds, his eyes milky and sightless, yet burning with a furious awareness that transcended death. The chamber rang with a sound that tore through the soul, a scream of betrayal, centuries old and echoing with imperial wrath. Valentina froze as the Emperor's gauntleted hand rose, trembling but deliberate, and pointed straight at her. His jaw creaked open, teeth bared in a rictus of hatred. From the hollow of his throat came a single word, drawn out like a curse. Ethelreda. The name struck like a dagger of ice. It was foreign, yet it pulsed inside Valentina's mind as if carved into her very soul. She staggered back, eyes wide, heart hammering. Demetrius grabbed her arm, his scholarly detachment shattered, replaced by primal fear. The Emperor's gaze followed her every step, his hollow eyes filled with recognition and vengeance. Who was Ethelreda? And how could this ancient, undead emperor know her name in the body of a 17th century Venetian woman? Chapter 8. The Shadow of Ethelreda. For a breathless moment, Demetrius could only stare, then instinct took over. Grabbing a broken shard of marble statuary, he stepped in front of Valentina, his body trembling yet defiant. The undead Emperor Andronicus paid him no heed. His milky, vengeful eyes locked on Valentina with the intensity of a predator recognizing its prey. When he spoke, the sound was like grinding stone and decaying lungs, each word soaked in centuries of rage. He told of Ethelreda, the courtesan who had once been his lover, his confidant, his doom. She had poisoned his chalice, betrayed him to assassins, and condemned his soul to a living death. Until her spirit is shattered, he rasped, mine shall never rest. Valentina's breath caught. The ruby necklace at her throat, an heirloom passed down through generations, began to pulse with a dark crimson light, sinking with the glow of the Emperor's ghostly gaze. A wave of pain split through her skull. Images assaulted her mind, a jeweled chamber, a golden goblet, a dagger flashing under torchlight, and her own face, regal and cruel, whispering betrayal. She stumbled back, clutching the burning gem, her heartbeat drowning out Demetrius's shouts. The crypt spun around her as the line between past and present began to blur, and Ethelreda's shadow reached out from within. Would Valentina uncover the truth of her cursed soul before the Emperor's vengeance claimed her once more? Chapter 9. The Awakening of the Traitor. Demetrius seized Valentina's hand, dragging her up the winding steps as the crypt behind them erupted with the metallic scrape of movement. The sound of armor against stone, ancient, relentless, echoed through the villa like the heartbeat of death itself. They burst into the grand sala, once radiant with laughter and music. Now it stood silent, the chandeliers swaying slightly as if disturbed by unseen breath. The grandeur felt hollow, mocking, every glint of gold a reflection of their folly. A sudden crash of stone announced the Emperor's arrival. Andronicus lurched forward, his rusted gauntlet snapping through the air, barely missing Valentina's shoulder. The near touch sent a violent tremor through her. She staggered, clutching her temples as a torrent of memories erupted behind her eyes. She was no longer Valentina. She was Ethelreda, the courtesan of Byzantium. She saw herself slipping poison into a goblet, whispering lies into the Emperor's ear, feeling the cold pleasure of betrayal. The scent of incense and blood returned as though no centuries had passed. The truth struck her like divine punishment. She was the traitor reborn, her kiss the key that had shattered the seal. What she had believed to be love was the final act of her own curse, binding them both in eternal tragedy. Tears streamed down her face as the Emperor advanced. In that single blinding moment of horror and clarity, Valentina knew, to save Demetrius, she would have to destroy herself. Chapter 10. The Betrayer's Kiss. Stunning twist. Demetrius now understood the terrible truth. The woman he adored carried the soul of the very witch who had cursed his emperor centuries ago. Yet his love didn't falter. With wild desperation, he seized an iron candelabrum and drove it into the undead emperor's chest. The creature staggered, the metallic bones screeching, but it did not die. Valentina, Ethelreda reborn, felt both lives colliding inside her. The cold ambition of the traitor and the fierce love of the Venetian woman. She prepared to sacrifice herself to save Demetrius. But before she could act, the emperor froze mid-motion, then collapsed to the marble floor with a hollow clang. From the shadows stepped Lord Alvasus, wiping a slender, poisoned dagger clean. "A messy end to a very old problem," he murmured. His true identity shattered the air. He was the reincarnated Imperial Assassin, once charged by the Byzantine court to keep the emperor buried and the traitor's soul forever cursed. "The curse is broken," Alvasus said evenly, meeting Demetrius's eyes, "but balance must be restored." With one swift, merciless strike, he plunged the dagger into Demetrius's heart. Demetrius's body fell lifeless in Valentina's arms, the true final payment. The curse was never about the emperor's vengeance, but about ensuring the betrayer's eternal grief. Now, Valentina Ethelreda lives on, immortal yet imprisoned, forever beautiful, forever haunted, vowing through her tears that one day Lord Alvasus will pay. Welcome back to the Zombie Story Zone, where love never dies, but lovers do. The haunting tale of whispers in the Venetian Crypt has ended, yet the true horror lingers. Valentina, now the stunning reincarnation of the treacherous Ethelreda, survives, forever cursed. Her true love, Demetrius, was slain by Lord Alvasus, the immortal assassin sworn to keep her soul bound to guilt and loneliness. Now trapped in the glittering cruelty of 17th century Venice, Valentina walks through endless masquerades, beautiful, immortal, and utterly alone. Her silks shimmer, but her heart is broken. The curse was never lifted, only reborn. Was this fate her punishment or destiny's cruel design? Tell us below who suffered most, Valentina, Demetrius, or Alvasus. Don't miss the terror that never sleeps. Subscribe to the Zombie Story Zone and relive the entire chilling saga today. Venetian horror, cursed love, Gothic romance, the Zombie Story Zone.
Where the tales of the undead are likely